My brothers, my sisters, the truth is not always in the answer. Sometimes the truth is in the question. There are questions that lift you up, that water your roots, that help your soul stretch toward the sun. But there are other questions sharp, edged and sugar-coated. They wear the costume of curiosity, but underneath they are hungry for your peace. They are not questions, they are traps. When someone asks, "Why do you always take things so seriously?" they mean to make you feel small. When they say, "Are you sure that really happened?" they are asking you to doubt your own memory. When they lean in with a grin and whisper, "Can't you take a joke?" they are asking you to laugh at your own hurt. A question is a powerful thing. It can be soft as a prayer or sharp as a blade. It can open the door to healing, or it can crack the foundation of trust. A question, when asked with love, with truth in the eyes, with care in the hands, that question becomes a bridge between souls. It says, "I see you, I want to understand you, I am willing to learn from your truth." But not every question wears such grace. Some come dressed in shadows, pretending to seek light. 2. We are taught that a question is always a good thing. "Ask and you shall receive," they say, but I say, look again. Some questions do not seek answers. They seek to confuse, to divide, to dominate. They are not a doorway to discovery. They are a trapdoor waiting for you to fall. The words may sound innocent, but the motive behind them is anything but. 3. Have you heard them? The questions that come with a smirk, not sincerity. The questions that echo with disbelief, not curiosity. Are you sure it happened like that? What did you do to cause it? Why are you so sensitive? Each one arrives with the mask of concern, but it is not concern, it is control. 4. They ask not to learn, but to lead you away from yourself. They do not listen for truth. They wait for a stumble, a crack, a hesitation they can twist. These questions do not build, they break. They are hammers disguised as hands, and the damage they do is not loud. It is slow, silent, spreading through your spirit like a poison. You start to question your own memory, your own meaning, your own mind. 5. When a person asks the right question, it feels like rain in a dry place. It nourishes. It says, "Tell me your story, and I will hold it with care." But when the wrong question enters, it feels like a drought disguised as a drizzle. It teases with the appearance of interest, but its only harvest is doubt. It does not quench, it drains. 6. And the liars, oh, the liars are clever. They do not always shout their untruths. Sometimes they whisper them through questions. They know that when you answer, you give. You reveal, you open up, and in that moment they strike. They take what you say and twist it into a weapon, then smile as if they meant no harm. 7. Do not be fooled by soft tones and sweet phrases. A liar can speak in lullabies. A liar can look like a friend, a lover, a leader, and their questions will sound kind, but listen deeper, not to the words, but to the intention, not to the sentence, but to the silence that follows. Sometimes it's not what they ask, it's why they ask it. 8. So understand this. A question is not wholly simply because it ends in a question mark. Discernment is your duty. The soul must learn to hear beyond sound. For the truth is not only in the answer, it is first in the asking. And if a question is born from lies, then it can never lead to light, no matter how gently it is spoken. 1. Curiosity on its own is not a crime. It is the root of discovery, the start of understanding. But when curiosity wears the wrong intention, it becomes intrusion. It becomes a tool, not of learning, but of unraveling. Some people ask not to see you, but to see through you as if your life were a window they have the right to press their face against, regardless of whether you invited them in. 2. There are questions that pretend to be innocent. They dress themselves in the garments of casual conversation. They sit beside you at dinner tables, in break rooms, on quiet walks. Why aren't you married yet? Why don't you have children? What happened to your father? Why do you dress like that? They are asked with tilted heads and smiling mouths, but the smile is only skin deep. The question carries weight it doesn't admit. 3. They say, "I'm just asking." But that phrase is a disguise, because what they are really saying is, "I want access to what I haven't earned." They believe curiosity gives them a passport into your pain. They believe that if they ask gently enough, you owe them an answer, and when you hesitate, they act as though you are being difficult, not private. Defensive, not dignified. 4. Let me tell you, every question is not entitled to an answer. Your life is not an open book for idle readers. Your story is sacred. Your silence is sacred. And no one's curiosity, no matter how polite, has the right to pull truth from your mouth like thread from a torn hem. Especially not when that thread leads to your wounds. 5. Some questions are laced with judgment, though they claim to seek understanding. They ask, "Why would you do that?" But the tone carries, "What's wrong with you?" They ask, "Don't you think that's a bit much?" But the undertone says, "You should be less." They package criticism as inquiry, and when you call it out, they wrap themselves in innocence and say, "I didn't mean it like that." But meaning always leaves a trace. You just have to know how to feel it. 6. Harmful questions don't always shout. Some whisper softly, slipping under your skin. They aren't loud like insults, but they echo longer, because they ask you to defend your existence in small pieces. They chip away, not with fists, but with curiosity dressed in Sunday best. 7. And the danger is this. We are taught to be polite. We are taught to answer when asked, to smile when questioned, to explain ourselves even when it costs us something sacred. We are taught that silence is rude, that boundaries are walls, not doors. But the truth is, a question with poison behind it does not deserve your voice in return. 8. So no, not all curiosity is harmless. Not all asking is done with open hands. Some questions are small traps laid gently across your path, and you will not always see them until you've stepped in one. Then you are tangled, explaining, defending, justifying, while the one who asked walks away untouched, pretending they were simply making conversation. 1. Some questions are not questions. They are tools, sharpened in silence, wielded with a smile. They don't arrive to gather truth. They come to dismantle it. Not every person who asks is seeking to know. Some ask to confuse you, to unseat your certainty, to make you stumble over your own truth. They ask so they can hold your answer like a thread and pull until your whole story comes undone. And they call it conversation. But no, my dear, it is strategy, too. They begin softly, "Are you sure?" They say, with eyes wide and innocent, and suddenly you aren't. They say, "I heard something different." And now you're off balance, questioning not just what happened, but how you remember it. That's not curiosity, that's corrosion. They erode the edges of your truth so gently, you don't even feel the cracking until it's too late, until your confidence leaks out like water through broken glass. 3. They ask, "Why would you say that?" And not to understand, but to shame. They ask, "What makes you think you're qualified?" And not to assess, but to intimidate. These questions don't rise from wonder. They crawl up from insecurity and power, hunger. They are weapons disguised as wonder, and when you begin to answer, you step into the very trap they laid. 4. Manipulative questions wear a mask of logic. They present themselves as reasonable, rational, responsible. But look again, these questions always come with a price. You pay with yourself, trust, with your clarity, with the time you waste trying to explain something that never needed to be justified. They bend your truth into knots and blame you for being tangled. 5. And there's another kind, the undermining kind. They ask you to prove what needs no proof. Do you think anyone will believe you? Are you really qualified for this? Isn't that a little dramatic? And when you answer, if you answer, you are already on your knees. Not because you were weak, but because they pulled the floor out from beneath your confidence. 6. Undermining questions don't care for facts. They care for control. They seek to shake the table just enough so your hands tremble when you speak. So your voice wavers not because you are unsure, but because they have filled the room with doubt. They want your light to flicker because their shadows feel safest in the dark. And so they ask again and again, until you forget the power of your own certainty. 7. There are those who ask questions as a way of hiding their intentions. They do not accuse. They inquire. They do not attack. They analyze, but make no mistake when a question is built like a staircase, and every step leads you lower. You were never meant to rise. They are not searching for clarity. They are searching for leverage. They want to stand taller by making you feel small. 8. So beware the clever question. Beware the question that feels like a tug at the thread of your dignity. It may be wrapped in calm language. It may be offered with a laugh, a shrug, a gentle tone, but its aim is anything but gentle. Some people do not want to understand you. They only want to unravel you slowly and call it dialogue. 1. Can't you take a joke? Those 5 words have ended more truths than lies. They come not after laughter, but after harm. Not after joy, but after a sting. They are not a question, they are a command. A command to silence your discomfort, to laugh at your own pain, to make yourself small enough to fit inside someone else's comfort. They don't want you to take a joke. They want you to take the blame. 2. This phrase is not alone. It travels with a cruel choir. You're being too sensitive. You're reading too much into it. It wasn't that deep. Each one is designed not to ease your mind, but to unmake your meaning. To turn the light of your feelings into something foolish, something dramatic, something unworthy of respect. 3. Gaslighting wears many faces. Sometimes it smiles, sometimes it jokes. It doesn't need to shout, because it whispers its way into your confidence. It doesn't need to argue because it makes you argue with yourself. You walk away wondering if you imagined the insult. You replay the moment looking for permission to feel hurt, but hurt does not wait for permission. Hurt knows when it has been called. 4. Can't you take a joke? They ask, and what they mean is, can't you ignore your own boundary? Can't you pretend your wound is a laugh line? Can't you make my comfort more important than your truth? That is not humor, that is control, because real jokes do not humiliate. Real laughter does not require silence from the person who's hurting. If it's only funny to the one doing the hurting, then it was never a joke. It was an attack in disguise. 5. Dismissive language is a tool of power. It doesn't just erase what you said. It erases your right to have said it. They say you're being dramatic, as though your experience is a stage play, as though your pain is something rehearsed. They say it wasn't that serious, and just like that, your truth becomes a punchline, but your truth is not entertainment. It is sacred. 6. When someone says, lighten up, they are not asking for joy. They are asking you to shrink, to dim, to disappear, because your full presence, your full voice, your full reaction is too much for the comfort they have carved out for themselves. They want you pliable. They want your boundaries blurred, so they coat the harm in humor and call it harmless. 7. Words have weight, and these phrases may seem feather, light in tone, but their impact is heavy. They rewrite the moment. They teach you that your instincts cannot be trusted, that what felt wrong to you must be wrong with you, that you are the problem, not the person who crossed the line, and that lie, whispered often enough, can begin to sound like truth. 8. So when they say, can't you take a joke, remember what they're really doing. They are not making you laugh. They are trying to make you submit. They want you to swallow your reaction so they can stay comfortable. They want to turn offense into comedy and your clarity into confusion. But you know what happened. Even if they insist it was nothing,